Thinking about buying a franchise? Then the How to Buy a Franchise show is just for you. Here's your host, Dr. John Hayes.
Hi, I'm John Hayes of the How to Buy a Franchise show. My guest is Alvino Rosales with 7-Eleven, a franchise name that everybody knows. So, Alvino, you are a franchise sales rep for 7-Eleven. And how many more 7-Elevens can you build? They're everywhere, or so it seems.
That's right. You know, the sky's the limit. As it stands today, 7-Eleven is the largest retailer in terms of units alone. We have over 60,000 locations worldwide. That's surpassing the McDonald's and the Starbucks brands of today. We're a global brand. So the answer to that question is there is no limit. We're looking for spots. San Antonio, the market that I'm in now, is considered a growth market for 7-Eleven. We're continuing to invest heavily in that market. This year alone, we currently have 10 stores slated for opening new sites in the San Antonio market now. So very exciting times.
So all over Texas, because Texas has been booming with new housing and new businesses, there must be, and Texas being Southland's corporate home,
Correct.
There must be lots of opportunities throughout Texas particularly, but other states and other countries too.
Absolutely. You know, Texas is a hot market. You know, the overall economy is thriving here today in Texas, so we have a lot of people that are interested in just moving into this area.
Yeah.
And when they get up there and they relocate, a franchise model is a pretty easy target to go after.
Yes.
And a name brand like 7-Eleven,
7-Eleven, right.
It rings true.
So before we talk about franchisees and franchising, why do people go to 7-Eleven? What drives the consumer to stop at a 7-Eleven?
That is a great question, and I think if we go and we ask anyone today, everyone has an experience that they've had with maybe their first Slurpee or that first brain freeze that they have as a kid, right? And those are memories that they've created over their lifetime as consumers. And even today, they find their buying patterns have changed. Maybe it's not a Slurpee, but it's that cup of coffee in the morning. It's a sense of community where you get to connect, not with the major brand, but with the local franchise owner that's there, and you know on a one-on-one basis, and you know you're going to get that service from us. And on top of that, our quality food offerings that we have, not only convenience store offerings as your traditional Dr. Pepper and Fritos, but today we're one of the top sellers of whole pizza. One of the top 5 retailers of whole pizza.
Wow.
Coming out of 7-Eleven. And that's a hot pie that you can get for $5.55, and it's cooked in under 4 minutes. You're ready to go.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you think about the way consumers are these days, we have less and less time, right? Time crunch. So convenience becomes more of an option. And I think making it easy for a customer to get a bite to go really quickly is a key feature.
So with 60,000 locations, how many of those are owned by 7-Eleven and operated by 7-Eleven, and how many are franchisee owned?
Well, that's a good question. So I don't have the exact numbers on that globally. We've got master licensees that are operating some of these stores globally. In the U.S., what our target and our aim is, we're looking at a 90% franchise-owned organization across the United States is what we're aiming for. So that's a target that we're continuing to go for. At the moment, I don't know what the exact figures are for the U.S.
And but with 60,000 locations, how many are in the U.S.? Do you know that number?
Yes, we have roughly 7,000 locations in the U.S.
7,000. And of those 7,000, there aren't 7,000 franchisees or even 6,000 franchisees. I would imagine maybe half that number.
That's correct. I mean, the opportunity is still out there. In terms of the availability to franchise and come into our system, it's there. There's inventory all across the country, especially in metropolitan areas. We're seeing growth occur as well. So the number of availability opportunities for people to still come into the system is there and growing.
Do they want to own multiple units? Is that primarily what franchisees are looking for?
Yes, and you know that's another key benefit is we have the systems and the processes in place to be able to scale out your enterprise.
Yeah.
So owning multiple is a benefit for our franchisees coming in.
So let's talk about a single unit, and let's say I want to become a franchisee of a 7-Eleven. It's going to be a new location because it's housing has been booming north of Dallas, and there's a spot for a new 7-Eleven. What's it going to cost me to become a franchisee?
Sure. So the average franchise fee in a 7-Eleven system is about $190,000. That's the initial franchise fee, and what that does is that gets you a 10-year contract to be an owner-operator of one of our sites. There is additional working capital that's required. The additional working capital is $29,000 of working capital, and that's a down payment on inventory, cover licensing, and a register fund that you initially invest in to get in. The great thing about that 190 franchise fee is that we offer internal financing at 7-Eleven. We offer to finance upwards of 65% of that franchise fee, and normally it's terms of a 5-year loan period. So that way, the second half of that contract is pure cash flow as you're operating that business.
So it's about a $230,000 investment.
Right, approximately.
Can I go to SBA and get a loan?
Typically not. What we found is the SBA is not usually willing to provide a loan for that. That's why we're more than open to do internal financing with 7-Eleven. And the reason is the asset is being maintained by 7-Eleven, the land and the building, so there's nothing usually collateralized against that loan.
So if it's a $230,000 investment, but I don't have to build the bricks and mortar, the land is owned by 7-Eleven and the building is owned by 7-Eleven and leased to me.
And it's not leased to you. 7-Eleven will cover the lease. We cover the lease. The biggest expense that a franchisee is going to have today in our system is the employee expense. So being an independent contractor, managing your employees is going to be probably your largest expense. The equipment that's provided, it's a turnkey operation. So you have Slurpee machines, you have the roller grills, everything that you need to run the business.
Yeah.
Not to mention a fully stocked store. A store that we turn over today has anywhere between $100 to $150,000 worth of inventory in it. We don't ask a candidate to come in and purchase that inventory. We offer a line of credit for that inventory as well when they come
So
in.
that's in addition to the $230,000. Then there's I need a line of credit for my inventory, which is going to turn over rapidly.
That's correct. And we provide that in-house. So that $20,000 down payment with that initial $29,000 working capital, that's a down payment towards that $150,000 inventory that we provide for you.
Okay. So a new franchisee is coming from what kind of background? Who's going to become a franchisee of 7-Eleven today?
All walks of life. Ideally, what we're looking for is someone that's a leader, that's good at managing people. This is a 24-hour business. It never stops and it never sleeps. So the funny thing that I tell a lot of candidates coming in is this is a new business. It's a lot like having your first baby. That baby can sleep through the night or it can wake up at 2 in the morning and cry. Having the people that can execute and manage and lead those people are the kind of qualities that we're looking for in a new candidate.
Because the biggest expense is people.
Correct.
And the people who you're going to manage. And the biggest headache is people, the people who you're going to manage. You might not put it that way, but we know that that's the case. You know, that it's not easy to manage people who work at a 7-Eleven. Maybe are they paid better than minimum wage, or it's up to the franchisee?
It's up to the franchisee,
Yeah.
and I think the biggest differentiator is how well do you connect with your people. It's an individual in this role will more than happily leave you if they're not being treated correctly for a quarter an hour down the street.
Right.
But if you're treating them right, they'll stay with you even if they're surpassing $1, but they feel like they're being treated correctly. So I think that's the biggest thing that a franchisee has to worry about. It is a people aspect of it.
How about training for a franchisee? After I sign the dotted line, I get the disclosure document, the franchise agreement, and I say I'm in. How long are you going to train me, and how does that work?
Well, initially, the training program that we offer is a 3-day orientation period at our headquarters here in Dallas. After that, you have a 7-week training period, which is in our in-store training program. This is an in-classroom environment and a store environment where you get to learn the ins and outs of our retail. Again, leadership and people skills are what we're looking for. The retail part is what we can teach you. That last 7 weeks where you're in the store, once that's complete, we call it a changeover when we switch it over from a corporate site to a franchise site. You go into your store, you have a store manager that's committed to being with you. That can range anywhere from 2 weeks to 30 days where they're in the store with you for that initial period, making sure that you're pushing the right levers, moving the right buttons, all those sorts of things. And then once that manager steps away, you have the full support of our operations team, and that comes with the business consultant. That business consultant is dedicated to meeting with the franchisee anywhere from 2 to 4 hours a week and just getting to understand their business, providing support support, coming over with new ideas, a way to grow the business and help ensure that they're making a profitable living.
So there was a time many years ago, I wrote about 7-Eleven in the first book ever written in the United States about how to buy a franchise. It was called Franchising the Inside Story, my book, in the early 1980s. And I interviewed at least one 7-Eleven franchisee in California, and maybe another one as well. And that franchisee said to me that every shelf and every space on a shelf in a 7-Eleven has a purpose. And you can't decide just because you're the franchisee, well, I think I'll take paper towels and I'll put them on aisle 3, shelf 1.
That's correct.
And I think I'll take cough drops and put them on aisle 1, shelf 2. No, it's already 7-Eleven has taken the guesswork out of it.
Oh,
that you're going to sell more cough drops if you put them aisle 3, shelf 8, or whatever it might be.
That's right.
In other words, everything has a space, and it's been proven that we're not just putting refried beans there because we need a place for refried beans. We'll put them in there because we know that's where they'll sell. True?
Absolutely, and there's a science behind it. It's amazing what we know we can sell in these stores, but there's a science to what goes behind it and understanding how different categories interact with each other. 7-Eleven's been doing this for a long time. We have the systems in place to make sure that you're successful and to make sure that nothing's just out of whack, as you mentioned.
And I'm glad you said that. Systems. This is why people should buy franchises, because of systems. That systems show you how to operate. And I always loved that story. I never knew if it was true, so I'm glad you've confirmed it, that 7-Eleven knows where everything goes in a store. It's part of the system. And, some people would say, then, gee, the franchisee doesn't have to think. Not about that. And how many franchisees want to think about where to put the facial tissue to sell facial tissue or toilet tissue? Who wants to be thinking about that? And besides, if you were to think about that, what evidence are you going to base it on? 7-Eleven has the science behind it. It's not guesswork. Well, I think we'll try aisle 3 for this. No. We know we already got that down.
That's right.
Now, a franchisee needs to put their energy and their thought process into other problems that have to be solved.
That's right. Absolutely.
Such as, what are some of those, we know people problems. What else are they got? What else does a franchisee have to solve?
Well, I think the biggest one is inside the box. We help identify those, as you mentioned. We have the science of retailing down inside that box. The other thing is our successful franchisees are engaged with their community. They understand their community. They go out to the local elementary schools and they host a PTA party. They bring a coffee of urn and donuts and host those meetings. Well, what does that mean? It's no longer they're going to 7-Eleven, but they're going to John's or they're going to Alvino 7-Eleven. They're connecting with that franchise owner. So that's the beauty of it. And the other thing is, the more connected you are with that community, there is additional guesswork in that inventory management part of it. There's certain demographics that like certain trends of certain items. If you're in predominantly Hispanic area, there's certain breads that they want to have. Well, you need to identify those trends and bring them into your store. If you're near a university that you can connect with, you want to identify the supplier of those university brand caps and have those available in your 7-Eleven as well. So those are unique opportunities that they can work on a day-to-day basis. And again, managing inventory and perception as well is another one. Getting away from the fact that we are gas stations. We are not gas stations. We take pride in saying we are 7-Eleven. We are a food retailer. We're a destination for fresh food items. And I think that's a big initiative for a franchisee to do.
But gasoline is a big part of the profit margin, is it not?
It is. It is a portion of the equation. But again, the biggest initiatives where things are continuing to grow is understanding that the consumer trend is going towards food. Fast and casual dining, quick items on the go. Those are items that we're starting to trend towards.
There was another time, not so long ago, I recall, when people said to boycott 7-Eleven because 7-Eleven was buying gasoline from an enemy of the United States. Remember this? It was probably 10 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't recall that. I don't remember that.
And I don't know if that, I doubt that was true. It certainly was denied.
Right.
And you don't hear that anymore.
Sure.
Where are you buying the gasoline from? Where's the supplier? Right. This was an issue with a country south of the border. But gasoline is a big part of the mix and something that provide. How much of the profit or how much of the sales are related to gasoline?
Well, we see a large correlation. Obviously, it's a traffic driver for us. People are commuting every single day, especially in a state like Texas. We love our vehicles, so it drives traffic to the location. But we feel that sites, even without gasoline, are still incredibly successful.
Yeah.
We have sites that are in the metropolitan area and downtown that do extremely well just with inside sales. So we largely pride ourselves on what we can do inside that box. So that's a large portion of what our business is and what the franchisee focuses on.
So how many 7-Elevens did you sell last year?
Last year as a whole?
Or you in your case, how many did you sell?
Oh, in my case,
San Antonio market only, right?
well, in the San Antonio market, I think we sold a total of 20 franchisees in the San Antonio market last year.
And what's your goal for this year for San Antonio?
Goal this year, we want to replicate that again and sell another 20 stores.
Okay. And do you only sell in San Antonio, or do you sell in other parts of the...
I sell just in the San Antonio market.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. What's your biggest challenge as a sales rep?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is awareness. San Antonio is still a growth market. It's still new. We entered that market through acquisition, so a number of these stores were rebranded, former convenience stores that we rebranded as 7-Eleven. So I think the consumer is still unaware that that Exxon that they were visiting is now a 7-Eleven and that our presence is there. So really making the awareness to the consumer out there, and also the franchising model. A lot of times you associate a major global brand like 7-Eleven with, well, I need $1 million or $2 million to get started in that business, and I think removing that misconception.
Yeah, as you did. It's well under $1 million to get in. Who's the ideal franchisee candidate?
The ideal candidate is, again, someone that has leadership capabilities, someone that understands systems. You're buying into 7-Eleven because of the systems and be able to follow those systems, and someone that feels comfortable engaging with people. This is a people business and a retail business, connecting with not only your employees but your retail consumer that's coming in on a day-to-day basis.
So, Alvino, it was great talking to you about 7-Eleven. I wish you all the best in your sales efforts this year and beyond.
Thank you, John.
And if 7-Eleven is of interest to you, you've got some great information about how to go about investing in a 7-Eleven franchise. This is John Hayes with the How to Buy Franchise Show.
Thank you for listening to How to Buy a Franchise Show. If you want immediate assistance, visit howtobuyafranchise.com to contact Dr. John Hayes for a free consultation.